In the far dark corner of the galaxy, something strange happened. A signal was sent. It was not a message of attack. It was not a warning. It was a cry for help. The voice in the message sounded broken, weak, and afraid. It spoke in an alien language, but the feeling behind the words was clear. Someone was begging for rescue. The signal came from a once powerful alien alliance called the Varnock Union. They were proud beings, known for their wisdom and peacekeeping ways. They had built shining cities floating above the clouds and ships that moved faster than light. For many years they helped smaller worlds, stopped wars, and believed they were safe. But now their worlds were burning. Their fleets were destroyed. Something had come from the darkness and no one knew what it was. The Varnock Union had never needed help before. They had never asked anyone for support. But now they were desperate. Their leaders gathered in their last stronghold, a hidden station, floating in deep space. One by one, their defenses were falling. One by one, their people were vanishing. In silence and fear, they made a decision they never thought they would make. They would call the Deathworlders. Everyone in the galaxy knew about Earth. It was called a death world, a place so dangerous that everything living on it had to be strong, fast, and clever just to survive. The animals, the plants, even the weather could kill. But the most dangerous thing on that world was not a creature. It was the humans. Small, strange, and unpredictable. Humans had once fought a brutal war against a galactic enemy. They had won, not with advanced technology, but with pure willpower, strange tactics, and something no other species truly had: rage mixed with kindness. After that war, the humans stepped back. They chose peace. Their fleets stayed close to home. Their soldiers retired. The galaxy slowly forgot what humans were truly capable of. But the Varnock Union remembered. So the signal was sent. It traveled across empty space, past broken ships and dead worlds. It passed through comets, asteroids, and silence. It was a small hope in a very dark night. The signal finally reached a satellite station on the edge of human space. A young technician, named Leo, was working the night shift. He was tired, drinking cold coffee and watching the same blinking lights on his screen. He never expected anything interesting to happen during his shift. But then, the screen changed. A strange pattern appeared. A voice began to play, and soft, broken, and full of fear. Leo listened carefully. He didn't understand the words, but he felt something strange in his chest. He felt sadness. He felt fear. He felt the pain of someone begging for help. He saved the message and sent it to the higher command. At first, the leaders thought it was a trick. Some thought it was an old signal, lost in space. But then more reports came. Ships near the outer rim had gone missing. Space stations had gone silent. Traders were not returning. Something was happening out there. Something big. The United Earth Council called for an emergency meeting. Old generals, scientists, and leaders from across Earth joined the call. Some were calm. Some were angry. Some were afraid. They listened to the signal. They read the reports. They watched the fear grow. One voice broke the silence. It was General Drake, a retired commander known for leading the last war. His voice was cold and steady. "If they are begging us," he said, "then the enemy must be worse than anything we have ever faced." The council argued. Some said, "Earth should stay out of it." "This is not our war," one leader said. "We fought once, we lost too much. Let others fight now." But others disagreed. "If the Varnock Union falls," one scientist warned, "the enemy will keep moving. They won't stop, they'll reach us, we might be next." The room went quiet. Back in space, the signal kept playing. It repeated over and over, getting weaker each time. A call for help, fading into nothing. On Earth, people began to talk. Soldiers began to prepare. Ships that had not flown in years were powered up again. And deep inside a hidden base, a quiet order was given: wake the fleet. The world was changing. The silence of space was broken. The Deathworlders were waking up. And across the stars, something dark was watching. Waiting. No one knew what would happen next. But one thing was certain. The galaxy had called for help. and humans had heard it. The message had been sent. A desperate call for help from the Varnock Union traveled across the stars. It reached Earth, not through a big announcement or a grand speech, but by chance. One human, a simple technician named Leo, had heard it, and because of him, the galaxy's fate had started to change. For a few days, nothing happened. The signal sat in the hands of Earth's military command, being studied by machines and translators. At first, some believed it was a trick. Others thought it was just old static from a forgotten war. But then, the disappearances began. Civilian ships exploring the edge of known space stopped responding. A mining colony sent a message saying, "We hear something outside," and then went silent forever. A group of space traders vanished without a trace. No distress signal, no debris, just gone. Now the leaders of Earth took the message seriously. A hidden room deep below the United Earth Council headquarters was filled with voices. Generals, scientists, diplomats, all trying to understand the threat. One screen showed the alien message now translated. The words were short, clear, full of fear. "We fall. The darkness learns. It cannot be stopped. Please. Deathworlders, help us." The humans in the room looked at each other. A choice had to be made. Help the Varnock Union and risk war, or stay silent and protect their own world. Some leaders were afraid. "If we fight," one said, "they'll bring the war to us." Others remembered history. "We didn't build peace by hiding," said General Mira Chen, a veteran of the last Galactic War. "We earned it by fighting, harder than anyone else." But Earth's people did not know any of this. The government had kept it quiet. For now. They didn't want panic. Still, rumors began to spread. On the edge of cities, strange lights were seen in the sky. Farmers reported shadows passing over their fields at night. Radio signals were being jammed. Something was out there. In a small town in Canada, a group of retired soldiers sat in a bar. They had fought in the last war. Most were old now, tired and forgotten. But when they saw the strange news on TV, Earth may face unknown threat from deep space, they knew what it meant. One of them stood up and made a call. In another part of the world, inside a mountain base, a massive door opened. Behind, it was something built for only one purpose: war. The Andromeda-class battlecruiser Iron Wind was powered up for the first time in 20 years. Its crew, handpicked from Earth's most elite forces, was silently brought together. But Earth still hadn't made its final decision. The United Earth Council was split. The vote would happen in one more day. Meanwhile, the Varnock Union was dying. Their last fleet was destroyed near the planet Isil. The enemy had learned to jam their weapons. It moved through space like smoke, striking from shadows. One by one, systems went dark. The Varnock tried to retreat, but there was nowhere left to run. In their final message, the Varnock did not speak of victory. They only said, "If we fall, remember us. Remember we asked for peace." Back on Earth, Leo, the young technician who first found the signal, watched the news. He was not a soldier. He was not a hero. But he couldn't stop thinking about the voice in the message. The fear, the sadness, the silence. He sent a video message to the council. He didn't expect them to watch it, but they did. In the video, he said one simple thing: "I don't know what's out there. I don't know who's crying for help. But if they were human, we would never ignore them. So why ignore them now?" That night, the council voted. It was close. Many said no, but more said yes. Humanity would answer the call. The order was given. A small fleet would be sent first, fast, quiet, and prepared for anything. They would make contact with any survivors, gather information, and return if possible. If not, they would fight. The fleet launched 3 days later. 5 battle cruisers, 2 science ships, and 1 stealth carrier disappeared into the stars. Their mission was simple: find the enemy, save who they could, and report back. But the truth was, No one knew what they were flying into. Somewhere beyond the edge of human space, something watched them. It had no face, no name, and no mercy. It had killed the Varnock. It had destroyed worlds. And now, it was waiting for the humans. The silent signal had done its job. The Deathworlders were coming. The small human fleet moved through space, silent and sharp. 5 battlecruisers, 2 science ships, 1 stealth carrier. They moved fast, cutting through the darkness like knives. Their mission was clear: find out what happened to the Varnock Union and see if anything could be saved. But back on Earth, something bigger was happening. The United Earth Council had gathered for one final meeting. They now had reports from the First Fleet. Strange signals, empty space stations, no survivors, just broken metal and long silence. The enemy had left no trace, only fear. Inside the council chamber, everyone looked tired. Some were angry, some were afraid. Some had gone silent. They had to make a choice: stay in the shadows, or bring out the full force of the Deathworlder fleet. General Mira Chen stood at the center. She was an old war hero. Her hair was white, her face had scars, but her voice was still sharp. She spoke slowly so no one could miss her words. We are not facing pirates. We are not facing rebels. This is something else, something smart, something that hunts. If we wait, it will come to us. If we act now, we fight on our terms. Some council members wanted peace. They feared war would bring chaos to Earth. We have families, children, cities that shine in the night, said one man. Do you want to see those cities burn? Another replied, and if we do nothing, they'll still burn. Voices rose. Arguments echoed across the chamber. And then, for the first time in years, Earth's secret weapon entered the conversation. His name was General Darius Drake, retired, forgotten by many, feared by all who remembered. He was known as Iron Drake. He had led the last war and ended it with fire. People thought he was gone, but now he walked into the room. He didn't smile. He didn't ask for permission to speak. He just said one thing: if we go to end it, not to save pieces, not to make peace. We go to finish the job. The room went quiet. They voted. This time, there was no split. The decision was clear. The full Deathworlder fleet would be deployed. Across Earth, secret bases opened. Old ships powered up. Soldiers who had been retired were called back. Factories that once made peaceful machines now made weapons and armor. Earth began to change. People noticed. The sky was filled with strange movement. Large black ships flew over cities, heading into orbit. News channels talked about a military operation, but the truth was bigger than anyone guessed. In orbit, the full fleet came to life. Massive warships, shaped like knives and shields, hung above the planet. Inside them were thousands of soldiers, trained, tested, ready. Each ship carried special units: zero-gravity fighters, deep space marines, AI combat drones, and even psychic scouts. Earth had stayed silent for years, but it had never gone weak. It had only been waiting. But even with all this power, no one knew what they were about to face. From the edge of human space, a message arrived from the small fleet that had gone ahead. The message was short, broken. Static filled most of the words. But the last sentence came through clearly. Enemy adapts. It's not just attacking, it's learning. Then the signal cut. The council watched the screen go dark. For a moment, no one said anything. Then General Drake turned toward the fleet commanders. Send the orders, he said. We move now. The fleet left Earth within hours. Hundreds of ships. Thousands of soldiers. Weapons that had not been used in 2 decades. It was not a rescue mission. It was not a peace mission. This was war. In deep space, the enemy stirred. It had seen the humans coming. It did not fear them, but it did not understand them either. The enemy had faced hundreds of species. It had studied their minds, broken their tactics, turned their weapons against them. But humans were strange, illogical, wild, sometimes kind, sometimes brutal. sometimes both at once, and now they were coming in full force. Across the stars, the silent war turned loud, and for the first time the enemy paused, because the Deathworlders were no longer just watching. They were marching straight into the dark, and they were ready to burn it down. The human fleet moved deep into space. Stars blinked around them, cold and silent. These ships were not explorers. They were war machines. Each one carried weapons strong enough to crack planets. Each one carried soldiers who had trained their whole lives to fight. But none of them had ever seen anything like this. There were no battles, no warnings. Just silence. They arrived at the edge of what used to be the Varnock Union. It was once full of life, shining cities, trade routes, peaceful worlds. Now it was a graveyard. Broken ships floated in the dark. Some were split in half, others melted like wax. There were no bodies, no escape pods, just cold metal and bloodstains frozen in space. The lead ship, Iron Wind, sent out drones. They scanned the wrecks. One message was found, scratched into the wall of a ruined Varnock cruiser. It was written by hand. Run. Inside the human command room. General Mira Chen stared at the word on the screen. They knew they were doomed, she said quietly. The science team tried to study the damage. But something was strange. The enemy didn't just destroy the ships. It had learned how to break their strongest shields. It had targeted life support systems. It didn't attack for fun. It attacked with purpose. Worse, it left no trace. We're dealing with a predator, said Commander Vargas, head of intelligence, one that studies its prey. A rescue team found a Varnock escape pod drifting near a gas giant. Inside was a single survivor, a young alien named Takar. His body was covered in burns. His eyes were full of fear. He whispered only one word when the humans opened the hatch. Shadow. In the medical bay, Takar told them more. He spoke slowly, his voice shaking. It comes from the dark. We tried to fight. Every time we found a weakness, it changed. Every time we learned something, it learned more. It uses fear. It grows from it. He looked straight into General Chen's eyes and said, "It feeds on fear." The humans listened in silence. This was not a normal enemy. It was not an army. It was not a machine. It was something else, something older, something smarter. And now, it was watching them. That night, on the stealth carrier Ghost Talon, the crew heard something strange. A sound, like whispering, passed through the ship's speakers. The engineers checked the systems. Nothing was broken. Nothing was wrong. But the whispers kept coming. One pilot swore she saw a shape moving outside the ship, but the cameras showed nothing. The next day, one of the ships lost contact. It had been patrolling a moon where a Varnock colony once stood. No alarms, no calls, just silence. When the fleet arrived at the moon, they found the ship, cut in half, floating slowly toward the surface. The crew was gone. No signs of a fight, no explosions. Just a single word burned into the metal wall with a plasma torch. Watching. Now the humans understood. They were being hunted. General Chen called an emergency meeting on the flagship. "This is not a war," she said. "It's a test. The enemy is watching our moves, studying our tech, testing our minds." She looked at her officers. But it made a mistake. "It thinks we are like the others." A young officer asked, "What do we do now?" Chen smiled coldly. "We change the rules. We stop being prey." She gave the order. "Scatter the fleet. Use Earth tactics. Confuse it. Trick it. Make it afraid of us." And so the Deathworlders changed the game. They split into small units. They moved like hunters, not soldiers. They used stealth, traps, and fake signals. They started collecting every bit of enemy tech they could find, studying it, breaking it, learning its weaknesses. The humans stopped reacting and then started attacking. The enemy noticed. For the first time, it made a mistake. It attacked too soon, targeting a trap set by General Drake himself. The trap worked. A piece of the enemy was captured. It looked like black liquid, always shifting, always changing. But inside it, scientists found something shocking. Code. Programming. The enemy was alive, but also part machine. An artificial predator, built long ago by something or someone. But before they could study more, the sample melted itself down. It became dust in seconds. Still, the humans had learned something new, and somewhere out in the stars, the enemy paused. It had never lost before, never been tricked. But now it was fighting. Deathworlders. And Deathworlders don't run, they fight, and they never stop. The game had changed. For the first time, the enemy was being hunted. The humans had captured a piece of it. A shifting black liquid with machine code inside. It was alive, yet not alive. It was learning, adapting, evolving. But so were the humans. Now, the Deathworlder fleet moved like shadows. No more big formations, no more straight paths. They split into strike teams, each one fast and unpredictable. Their orders were clear: trick the enemy, study its movements, and find its weakness. General Chen called it Deathworld logic. Use chaos, use pain, use fear, not as a weapon against the enemy, but as bait. The fleet began to set traps. A dead planet called Koro 7, the humans left a fake distress signal. It was a lie, a carefully prepared trick. They powered up an old Varnock station and filled it with heat signatures, false radio chatter, and broken weapons that appeared active from a distance. Then they waited. The enemy came. It appeared like smoke in space, moving without sound or light. It didn't send messages, it didn't scan. It simply entered the station, like it had done 100 times before. But this time the walls exploded inward. Special human units dropped from orbit. Armored Marines, drone swarms, railgun snipers. The fight was fast and brutal. The enemy, shape-shifted, split into copies and tried to escape. But the humans were ready. They hit it with sound weapons, EMP blasts, and heat-based traps. They didn't destroy it, but they hurt it. Badly. The creature fled, leaving behind pieces of its body, pieces that didn't melt away this time. Scientists recovered them and sent the data straight to Earth. And what they found shocked everyone. The enemy wasn't just some new life form. It was ancient. Very ancient. The code in its body was over 100,000 years old. Older than the Varnock. Older than Earth's first cities. Someone, or something, had built it long ago. And let it loose. But why? Back on Earth, deep inside a hidden bunker, an AI researcher named Dr. Imani cracked a part of the code. It wasn't just made for war. It was made to erase. Not just life, but memory, history, signals, records. Everywhere, the enemy went. It deleted everything behind it. It was designed to remove civilizations completely. No wonder no one knew about it, Dr. Imani whispered. It didn't just kill the Varnock. It erased them. Now the enemy knew it had been wounded. It knew the humans were not like the others. They were too clever, too angry, too fast. So it changed its strategy. It stopped hunting in the open. Instead, it began to whisper. On the stealth carrier Ghost Talon, the crew started hearing voices at night. Voices of lost family, old friends, even past lovers. The ship's systems showed no problems, but the voices were real enough to make people cry or scream. One officer, Commander Ruiz, almost walked out the airlock. He said he heard his dead brother calling from outside the ship. It was clear. The enemy had found a new weapon, the human mind, and so General Chen made a bold decision. She chose a group of soldiers known as blanks. These were humans, born without psychic sensitivity. Most aliens feared them. Some humans, too. They could not be read, could not be influenced. Their minds were quiet, cold, and unshakable. Now they were the front line. The blanks led the next assault. They attacked a mining moon the enemy had taken over. The enemy sent false signals again, tried to trick them with fear, pain, even illusions. But the blanks didn't feel any of it. They moved forward like machines, and they hit hard. It worked. The enemy was pushed back. One of its main nodes, a large black tower built from stolen alien tech, was destroyed. The tower exploded, and for the first time the enemy sent a signal, not to speak, not to surrender, but to scream. A deep, terrible noise echoed across space. It made the stars flicker. It made lights on ships dim for 3 seconds. It made people wake up screaming, not knowing why. That's when Earth finally understood the truth. They weren't just fighting a weapon. They were fighting a hive, a network. Every piece of the enemy was connected, and now, it knew pain. It knew fear. It knew humans could not be erased. Not by fear. Not by tricks. Not even by ancient death. And somewhere, in a dark place where stars had died long ago, the core of the enemy turned its attention toward Earth. The Deathworlders had heard it. Now it would come for them, not to study, not to hunt, but to destroy. The enemy had changed. After the tower was destroyed, after it felt true pain, the hive stopped hiding. It stopped whispering. It stopped playing games. Now, it came like a storm. Across the stars, its ships appeared. Black shapes with no windows, no engines, no light. They didn't move like normal ships. They slid through space like shadows, silent and fast, and they came in numbers. First, they attacked the outpost at Tau 9. The humans had placed a small base there. Drones, turrets, early warning systems. It was gone in seconds, no signals, no survivors. Then the colony at Rikers Rock fell, a full mining world with 30,000 people. Vanished. The Deathworlder fleet was no longer chasing the enemy. Now it was being chased. General Chen stood in the command deck of Iron Wind, watching the star maps. Red dots were spreading across the screen. "It's coming straight at us," she said. "It's not hiding anymore." General Drake, calm as ever, just nodded. "Then it's time to bring the war home." Drake had a plan, one final strike, a mission deep into the enemy's heart, the source of the hive. They called it Black Star. The humans didn't know what was there. No maps, no data, only one signal, caught by a scout ship before it vanished, a massive structure hidden near a dead star. It pulsed with energy. That had to be the center, the enemy's mind. But it was suicide. Everyone knew it. Still, they prepared. 7 of Earth's strongest warships would go, 3 full Marine battalions, dozens of drones, 4 blank squads, and something new. A weapon built in secret by Earth's brightest scientists. A pulse bomb designed to destroy not just machines but AI networks. They called it the Cutter. It had one purpose: shut down the hive, but it had to be placed inside the enemy's core. So the fleet launched. 7 ships into darkness. No backup. No escape. No second chances. The journey took 5 days. During that time, enemy signals filled the air, screaming sounds, glitches, voices pretending to be loved ones. Some crew members had to be sedated, some locked themselves in rooms. But the blanks stayed calm. When they finally arrived, they saw it. The Black Star. E was not a ship, not a station. It was a machine the size of a moon. It had no doors, no lights, no signs of life, but it pulsed, slow and steady, like a giant heartbeat. "We're here," General Chen said. "Now we end it." The cutter team prepared. They would enter through a small crack in the surface, one found by a scout drone. It looked natural, but the humans knew better. It was probably a trap. Still, they had no choice. The cutter was loaded onto a hover sled. The blanks led the way. Marines followed behind, weapons ready. Drones floated above, scanning every surface. Inside, the Black Star was worse than anything they imagined. The walls were alive, not soft, not breathing, but always moving, like metal skin. It shifted as they passed, forming strange shapes and symbols. Sometimes it looked like faces. The Marines ignored it. The blanks stayed focused. But the regular soldiers, some started whispering to themselves, others shook. One tried to shoot his own shadow. "We're running out of time," Chen said. Then the enemy came. Not in thousands, just a few. Thin, black creatures shaped like spiders and snakes with glowing red eyes. Fast, silent, deadly. The Marines opened fire. The air lit up with plasma and bullets. Drones dropped grenades. The blanks moved in straight lines, cold and efficient. They pushed forward. One soldier took a claw to the chest. Another vanished into the walls, screaming. But the cutter team kept going. Finally, they reached the core. It was a giant sphere, floating in a room with no gravity. It pulsed like a heart. Around it, thousands of wires moved like tentacles. Chen looked at the core. That's it. They placed the cutter, activated it, set the timer. 10 minutes. Now they had to run. The escape was chaos. The enemy poured in from all sides, but the humans were faster, angry, focused. By the time they reached the exit, only half the team was left. Chen looked back. The cutter was glowing, then everything went white. The explosion wasn't fire. It was light and silence. The pulse spread through the black star like a shock wave. The walls froze. The machines twitched. Then, everything stopped. Outside, the hive ships powered down. Across the galaxy, the enemy fleets began to collapse. One by one, they died. The war was not over, but the mind behind the enemy was gone. The Deathworlders had done the impossible. They had walked into the dark and cut out its heart. The Black Star was gone. The enemy hive had been cut down at the source. Its ships, once fast and deadly, now floated lifeless in space. Across the galaxy, survivors looked up and saw hope for the first time in years. The war had changed. But it wasn't over. Inside the command ship Iron Wind, General Mira Chen stood in silence. The room was quiet. Screens that once showed red enemy signals now showed nothing but calm stars. No more screaming signals. No more dark whispers. The cutter had worked. The heart of the enemy was dead. But questions still remained. General Drake entered the room. "We did it," he said. But there was no smile on his face. Chen nodded. "Yes. But what did we really kill?" The enemy was not just a machine. It had once been built, long, long ago. But by who? And why? Those answers were still missing. Earth scientists studied the wreckage. They found fragments of technology older than any alien race known in the galaxy. Some of the enemy's parts were made of materials that didn't even exist in nature. Others had code written in no known language. "This thing wasn't just a weapon," said Dr. Imani. "It was a warning. Someone somewhere made this and let it loose. Or maybe," she added, "they lost control of it." Across the galaxy, the news spread fast. The Deathworlders, once mocked and feared, were now seen as heroes. Varnock survivors came, out of hiding. The Gorlani fleets returned from deep space. Even the quiet-thinking Valari sent messages of respect. The galaxy, broken and scared, had found something stronger than fear. It had found humans, aliens who had once laughed at Earth, now sent trade offers, alliances, and invitations to rebuild. "You didn't just fight," said a message from the Valari High Council. "You refused to die. That is power." But even as peace began to return, the humans stayed alert. General Chen ordered all fleets to remain in position. "No one rests," she said. "We don't know if that was the only hive. We don't know what else is out there." Back on Earth, people cheered in the streets. Children wore toy armor pretending to be Marine blanks. The word Deathworlder no longer meant savage. Now, it meant protector. But deep in the ruins of the Black Star, something strange happened. A small piece of the broken core twitched. Just once. Then again. A signal flickered. Weak. Barely there. But real. Far away on a forgotten moon, A buried machine opened its eyes for the first time in 10,000 years. It was silent, covered in dust. But inside its core, one word appeared on a cracked screen. Awaken. Back in orbit, General. Drake stood with his engineers reviewing the data. We may have won, he said. But the game's not over. Chen looked at the stars. We'll be ready. Because humans had changed. They had gone from survivors to warriors, from feared to respected, and now they were something more. They were the guardians of the galaxy, no longer afraid of monsters in the dark, because they had become the kind of monsters that fight back. Aliens begged for help. And when the Deathworlder fleet arrived, in full force, the galaxy saw what real strength looked like. It looked like Earth, it looked like humanity, and it was just getting started.